As much as we quilters love learning a new technique and using it and making more quilts and having fun and seeing what we can do to personalize it, sometimes we run out of ideas. What else can I make? Well, fortunately for us, we have a big holiday coming up, actually a couple of them, and this is going to be a perfect time to quilt up a holiday quilt, whether it be a wall hanging or whether you make it a large full-size quilt to put on somebody's bed or on the front door or just a tiny little placemat. Whatever the case may be, here's a fun idea you are really going to enjoy. I'm Leah Louise from Inspired Quilting by Leah Louise, and we have been on a scrappy venture for nearly 2 months now. This is number 7, and I am just having so much fun, not to mention getting stuck in the log cabin furrow. We are there. We are in the midst of the log cabins and finding some really fun, wonderful patterns. And I've seen them before, but I never really thought about how they were made. So I'm going to show you how this one is made. Now, this is actually a pattern by somebody else, and I have those links below. The pattern is, for the most part, not downloadable that I can find, but you can buy them online and have it mailed to you. And I just want to share this with you because I think it's a wonderful pattern. I know I've seen it out there, but you know, a Christmas tree just doesn't get old. They're beautiful. And throw some wild scrappy batiks in there, and it's exciting. I love it. I'm really, really anxious to show this to you. So let's get started. But first, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I'd love to have you join me and let everyone else know what a good time we're having with our quilting. I'm ready to start. How about you? And here's where I started. A pile of strips that I collected. Just about all of them are batiks, which makes it kind of fun. And I have a festive holiday wall hanging I'm going to make out of these. And I want to show you the blocks. This is going to be the Curvy Log Cabin, which is a lot of fun. So let me set those aside. I do want to show you one thing to notice. Different size strips. What do you think that works like? Well, that's what I want to show you. Oops, did I hit the camera? There's 3 different style block layouts. They're all made exactly the same. It's just a matter of the way that the fabrics fall. Every one of them has a center. Notice these strips are wider and these are narrower. That puts our center out of the center, so it's an off-center center block. There's still 3 rows all the way around, but because these are narrower than this, these are about half the size, it brings that center corner to one side, which makes it kind of fun. To be quite honest, when I made my first log cabin, I'm going to show you that quilt in just a minute, because it happens to be a Christmas quilt, and that's sort of where we're going here. And it's the only one I ever made because I just didn't get excited about it. It was one of those where you cut all the strips ahead of time and you have all these stacks and you go through it, and oh my gosh, it just seems so monotonous to me. And here's my first ever log cabin quilt. And I really like it, despite the fact that making it wasn't particularly exciting, engaging. What I didn't like is pre-cutting all those strips and then, you know, piecing it very methodically. And the reason is this, you know, early quilting, if you go back and look at your first quilts, you've really changed your style. Now, I don't do quilts like this where everything is repetitive. Every block is exactly the same. Now, I do like how this particular pattern repeats in each block, and as the block is turned, you know, it creates this really fun design element. And I'll tell you, that was quite by chance because I did not know what I was doing, and I just had this, you know, pretty ribbon fabric, and I thought, oh, wouldn't that look nice? And so, you know, I like a lot about this, and it's not the quilt, it was the method. And so now that I found a method I call my scrappy, or for me I call it my stash quilting, I really like making quilts like this a lot more, because until just these last quilts we've made for the, what, with 2 or 3 months, the log cabin quilts, I have not done a log cabin since. And this goes back probably close to 25 years. So it's come a long ways. Now I do have to show you, check out this elaborate quilting. Oh my goodness. I obviously couldn't get finished fast enough. So we all come a long ways. And if you're a beginner, know that you don't get an improved result unless you continue quilting and keep at it. You're going to find what you like and what works for you and what you enjoy about the quilting process. For me, it's all about the fabric. And as long as I have my fabric time to put it together and, select what I want and cut it and get it just where I'm really happy about it, then that quilt will be a great success. And for some, it's the pattern, and for others, it's the piecing. And so we all have different things that we really like about the quilting, the quilting process, and it's just a matter of finding that. But I thought you'd enjoy seeing this. I do love this star pattern. One thing to look at, and this was something I didn't understand in the very beginning with log cabins, is your first row of color is going to be the smaller side of the log cabin. So here the green is the smaller half of the block, whereas the second round, which in this case are these lighter fabrics, they are more dominant because they are the last strip that's applied to the block, and that makes it more visible. Now, there was a time after having this be put together that I thought, oh, I should have reversed the colors, because then I would have a bigger star or a more connected star. But I'm glad I didn't, because I do like that definition between the blocks. And again, like I said, I really like this pattern that falls through here. So I want to thank my sister for sending me a picture. This quilt doesn't live with me anymore, and she enjoys it. She had grandkids before me, so she was a decorator too, and it all just suited her very well. So here we are. And I just wanted you to see this quilt and, kind of understand some basics about log cabins and some of the simple things you can do. I mean, this, for my first log cabin, I was pleased with the fact of how easy it went together. And honestly, it wasn't until years later that I realized, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. But regardless of all that, I never made another one probably until this year. and I think that's a lot to do with how we used to do log cabins. But there's a lot of things that we used to do in quilting that we don't anymore. Thank God we don't, because I love the new freedom we have in quilting just to make wonderful quilts the way we like them and not have to get caught up with what the rules are. So don't let any quilting police, raid on your parade. All right, let's get on and get this quilt together that we're talking about. This is called a curvy log cabin because as you are putting your narrow pieces against your wider pieces, the center is going off to the side, but notice how you get this curve in the block, and that makes it really neat. So when we put these side by side, we have a solid and then we have a curve. So I'm wondering if you know yet just where we're going with this. Here's another one with the solid. It's all the solid. And I have that pin there as a reminder because I need to fix that corner. Here's another one. And here's another of our curves. Now look at that. So see, you can do some really fun things with this, putting these on either side. And then there's another. So these are the curves. And I call these the background curves because it's the background that's dominant. And we have this one. Oh my goodness, how many? Where's the other ones? I hope I have them here. There they are. And then we have this one. And this is where we use the heavier or the wider strips as the dominant color. And then we get this look, which obviously is the opposite of this. So this is the exact same block here and here, but we've taken colors in the wide strips, whereas this is the background. Now, you may have seen this because this pattern has been around for a good while. But what we're going to make, let's see, I'm going to kind of put it up here like this. I'll lay it out in a small version because it's going to be really hard to get this all on the screen. So we're going to go, where's my other wide one? Oh, they're both here. Let's go this way. And then we come in and we put this one here. Actually, we're going to go this way, like that. So let's put this other block in the middle. And now I can't find any of them. I know I have some more solid blocks. I think they all got laid down here, didn't they? There we go. And you can turn these around any which way to get these center points. But essentially what we're making here is a Christmas tree. And then we're going to put some pieces up above. So I'll get this piece together for you and show you how this works. But this was a hard pattern to track down. I did find some copies on Amazon as well as Etsy, and it's very inexpensive. It can run anywhere from $4 to $6, but it's not a PDF download. It is something that you have to have mailed because it's done on cardstock, and that's just the way they do it. So I'll go ahead and link that down below. And that's why I'm not giving you dimensions and specifics about this, because it is a pattern for sale. And I certainly don't want to infringe on somebody else's business. But I do want to share the pattern because I think it's really, really fun. Now, the other thing I want to show you is how to actually make these blocks. And it's quite a simple process. So let me get some pieces together and I'll show you an example of how we can put this together. Now the block I'm going to show you is a bit bigger. This is all done with large 2.5-inch strips. So this is really easy to cut from your fat quarters or use jelly rolls. And it's a very quick pattern to put together. And as I said, you've got the wide strips, so these are 2.5. We have the narrower strips, which you can go anywhere from 1.5 to 1.25. And I actually just went 1.5 on these, and that worked out fine. But I think because, well, no, think about that. 2.5 is going to go down to 2 inches. 1.5 will go down to 1. So finished, it is a half the size. So that is the correct 2.5 and 1.5. Here I thought I was, kind of winging it and going off on my own, as I sometimes do. So I started with a center square, and I have my 3-inch background, and I did row 1, and then I did row 2. And then I came around, and of course I used a contrast fabric, and then we put in row 3, and let's kind of get this to turn if we can, and row 4 like that. So by doing this, and we can continue with our 3 rows, we build up on this side where this stays nice and narrow. And let me show you how that block looks. So here it is, and you can see it's predominantly to one side. And I'm going to move these green ones aside, and I'll show you that towards the end when I get that pieced. So I have 4 of these all together, and I'm going to show you real quick how to sew that. But I want to show you where we're going with this. So here's another one. So this is kind of fun. And again, I'm not going to be able to get it all on the screen, but I can get a good part of it. And so what we'll do then is take this, and if you notice, all I did was alternate a burgundy and a red fabric. And they're not batiks, just printed fabrics, and they have some gold metallic They're not even Christmas prints, but they made me think of a Christmassy kind of a pattern. And so, putting 4 together like this. So I think these blocks will finish at about 10 inches. And then, so I'll have a really nice square. And I can do the trim, I can quilt it, put some fun binding around it. And, just put this on the coffee table or on the table, just for a festive look. It's really quick to do. I'm going to show you how fast these blocks go. Give me just a moment to get set up and we'll go do some sewing. And here's the block we're going to make, the Curvy Log Cabin. And the way we achieve that is by changing the widths on each side of our center square so that these strips will create that center square to fall off center. So we have wider strips on one side and narrower on the other, and we get this curved effect. And I'll show you afterwards when I put them together and you can see. But what I want to do is make a couple blocks for you and show you how this works. So what we do is, one thing to keep in mind, I'm going to get that block back again because I do want to show you. Notice how the wider strips take up more room, the narrower strips take up less of the design area. And that makes sense because they're smaller. So you need to think about what you want to achieve when you're doing this, because if you reverse this, then this is where the red will be and this will be the white. So I'm going to go for 4 of these blocks. I've already made 2 and I'm going to make 2 more, and then we'll put them together, and I think it's going to make like a really pretty table centerpiece or something like that. Now I do have some pieces left over from earlier, and this is what I want to show you. Is I have our center square. Both of these are 2.5 inches, and this is 2.5 inches. And I sewed these together, folded them over, and rather than cut everything to size as we go, I sew and trim. I just find that easier. Now, we need to make sure which way you turn this. I have a tendency to want to go clockwise, but if you do, you're going to have a different look. Not significantly so, it's just your corners will go around the curve in a little different manner. So you just need to be consistent. And so what I'm going to do is lay this piece down, and I usually put the strip that I'm adding on the top, and I'm going to get my 1/4 inch seam. And, as with any patchwork quilt block, a consistent seam allowance is important because in order for everything to fit, they all need to be the same size. So what I do is I trim this off, and I leave about 1/8 of an inch there so that when I'm ready to come around on the other side, I make sure I have enough. And I'm always afraid I'm going to cut in and come up short. Like, see how this one has a little angle in it, but I know I've got enough on that side, so I'm good. So let me go ahead and do this one. I'm going to start with one of my longer strips. Again, we're using the 2.5 inch, and I'm going to go on this side. It's always good to have a block over on the side. I like doing more than one at a time so I can refer just to make sure I'm going in the right direction and keeping them consistent. And there we go. Like this. Now, we do 1 row at a time, and so we'll do row 1 all the way around. And what we've just completed here is row 1 on the 2.5 inch strips. All right, now we're going to do row 1 with our narrow strips. And keeping our center right here, this is 1, 2, and the next one's going to be here, which is 3. And I have this piece. I'm using up some of the scraps from the previous blocks. So I'm just using these little ends real quick, and then I'll pull out the long strips here in a minute. And so we're going to come around here. And again, I'm just going to trim that off a bit, cut my thread. Did I not trim that all the way? Apparently not. Okay, so now this is a bit of a burgundy and this is red. And what I'm going to do is alternate. So I need a red next. And this is my center. That's kind of my sure thing. I know that that's my straight and lined up where it needs to be. And that's where I place my next strip, is in line with that. And these pieces that I haven't trimmed yet will hang out, and that's fine. I'm using this piece, this new strip, that's lined up with my center square as my guide. Now, this one, let's see. Yep, that's red, so I'm going to use a different color on that one. So what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll just trim that in line with my seam allowance. Something as small as this, you really don't have to. Then I'll just flip this over, turn it. And so I have row 1, I have block 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now I'm going to come with this one, and I'm going to use that burgundy color, which I have right here. And so again, here's my center. 1, 2, 3 is going to come over here. There we go. And we'll just come around to the end. I finger pressed it, but it didn't quite want to go down. There we go. That should be fine. Come to the end, we'll cut. So this is the extent of it. And the big design factor here or trick is that you're just using different size strips. It's exactly the same as any other log cabin. You're going around in circles. You just go around from one to the other. And as you go, you just want to make sure that you get them in the right order and or color depending on what you want. So again, I'm lining it up with this block right there. And just let this fall right in line and then sew it and we're good. So I just want to show you how this looks. Now, when I'm doing a bunch of these, I will stop at each round, generally speaking, and give them a quick press and measure, because I want to make sure they all measure the same. And that just helps for accuracy when you go to put all your blocks together. They're going to match up well. And it also keeps you on track that, you're doing the right thing. Okay, so we're going to do a second row. Now there's only 3 rows to this. Oh, look, I've got plenty here to do more. We're only going to do 3 rounds. Just set that block out of the way before it falls on the floor. So this will be a quick one. And let's see. So we're going to line up with the center. We're going to sew right off to the end. The difficulty with this block is it's really hard to chain piece unless you're doing a lot of blocks and you can just run them through. Because I'm flipping back and forth with sizes and colors, it makes it hard. But if I were going to be making a dozen of these, I would just lay them all down and just vroom vroom through this whole strip, and that makes it go much quicker. We're just doing it this way for the ease of demonstration. I see we've got some creases in here. My goodness. I didn't notice that when I cut it. They must have been on the inside. And so this is some fabric I have had around for years. I don't even remember. Somebody gave it to me, I know that. But I don't even remember where it came from or what it is. Okay, center block. 1, 2 rows, 1, 2. So I'm finished with the white here. Now I'm going to go to my red. And the red is right here. So I'm going to continue in my circle going this way. Okay, we're on my second row. Oh, goodness. See, I got myself turned around there. Thought, wait a minute, what's going on here? Ooh, I cut that one crooked. So line it up. That's going to keep you straight, and then just stay on your seam allowance. There we go. Make sure that seam folds under where it needs to be, and then just come right out here to the end. So I think you've probably seen enough of this, and there's not a whole lot happening other than me potentially making a mistake, and well, that's always entertaining. I hope that's not going to be the case. So let me just swing around this one, line it up, run it through. There we go. And tell you what, we'll do, we'll do the next round on the second block, and then you can kind of compare what they look like. So here's our second block, and we're going to go with the burgundy. And I'll set that here, but we do have to do our whites first. Am I going to, oh, look at that, just enough, perfect. I love when I can use my little pieces. Okay, so make sure I've got enough on each end. I do. And you know, I'm doing this very quickly, and I'm not really focusing on accuracy. Otherwise, I'd be doing a better job of trimming and measuring and all that. I just want to show you how this goes together. And also show you how forgiving it is, because you really can get away with a lot. So again, see, when you get a crooked piece like that, see how it goes kind of wonky into the corner? Line up with the straight edge down the middle, and just let this lay flat and straight, and then use that as your seam allowance guide. And then come back and trim all that messy stuff off. All right, so we're going to do this. We'll come around here, just right off the end. Let's see if I can do a better job of trimming. I've kind of been making a mess here. Okay. So now we have 2 rows of each. And again, we start from the middle. Whoops, 1, 2. Nope, I didn't do. I'm going to take a little bit more in there. That was looking a little crooked to me. If I know I've taken a crooked seam, I'll just make a dart. Essentially, that's all that is. But just nip in a little bit there. Okay, so now we are ready for our burgundy. And that's going to go here. Okay, line that up. Get this one done. And we'll run this through. I always want it to extend just a little bit so you don't come up short. Now the other thing, and if you've seen the other recent log cabins I've done, instead of just using, you know, strips of the same fabric, I really like mixing it up, and I like mixing up the pieces as I'm sewing, so it's not always a continuous strip of the same fabric. And but for this case, just because I'm alternating 2 fabrics, I had a couple Christmas fabrics that was just kind of in a box. I don't know what it was for or what I had intended it. Okay, so here we are. Our center, we have 1, 2, count 2 rows out all the way around. So now I'll start here with my 3rd row, and then we'll be finished. And I'll show all the blocks to you when I get them trimmed up and pressed. And here's what the Curvy Log Cabin 4-patch block looks like. Now I've sewn this together with the centers to the middle, or I should say the color corner to the middle, and the centers close also to the center of this block. And I put the wider strips to the outside. Now you could certainly reverse that and create a white circle in the middle. I just like the color being in there. But I just wanted to show you what this looks like finished. It's a really fun, and you saw how easy and quick this block is. So I hope you get to try it soon. All right, let's go ahead and finish up. We are just about there. I love how this Scrappy Log Cabin Christmas tree turned out. It's beautiful, it's such fun, and it's filled with all these different fabrics, and I really made an effort to pull in lots of different fabrics. I like the idea of sort of a green tree, but somehow adding all these bright colors and patterns and designs just makes a simple pattern like this look far more interesting and intriguing. And, you know, we've got our little red centers, and you can certainly, you know, do something else with them and choose a different color or multiple colors or make them gold. The only thing I need to do now is figure out what's going to go on top of my tree and then add a trunk. So I already have some brown batiks down here. I thought about quilting a star, but they're just too big. So I may do some kind of an applique. We'll see how that all goes. But there we are. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I hope you enjoyed this. This was great fun for me. This was a fun quilt block to learn. I haven't done this before, and I really enjoyed sharing it with you. So you all have a great rest of your day, and it's Friday, so have a fantastic weekend, and maybe you'll get a little Christmas quilting in. Have a wonderful, terrific afternoon, and enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. And don't forget, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. We'll see you next time.